just that number makes me think that, because it did raise your hand or unmute yourself when you feel um, you have something to say or a question to ask. Shelby just asked if she's in a car driving home from school. Just first and foremost, keep your eye on the road, pay attention. Um, and I don't really have any tips for audio over the phone, except for wear maybe one headphone in one ear. And also, if something breaks up, we're going to be recording this session. So just you can email me later tonight or tomorrow, and I'll send you the recorded version of that as well, Shelby. All right, so I'm going to get started. First of all, thanks for coming out today. And we're going to be talking about mainly the Gilman International Scholarship, which is a scholarship that's sponsored by the U.S. Department of State. It's considered a competitive scholarship, and we'll get into numbers on one of the slides. And as you apply, you're gonna come across another organization that people in the biz know as IIE, but it stands for the Institute of International Education. And they are the organization that operates out of New York, and they administer all the applications in the process. I myself, my name is Matt Ryan, and I work in the International Services Office. And our office really operates on two sides. There's two spheres, really. One is inbound students, which services international students that are here on students' visas to study at FGCU for either a semester or for the 4 years and get a degree here. And the side that I work on is everything that's outbound. And the biggest portion of that would be study abroad. But even study abroad has many things under that umbrella. I am one of the three Gilman representatives on our campus. So the other two I will introduce right now. The first one is Dr. Terumi Rafferty of Saki. I call him Terumi. I've heard students call him Dr. T. I'll let him just introduce himself, and he can tell you what you should call him and what he does here.
Greetings. Yeah, Dr. T is fine, and I'm the director for the Office of Competitive Fellowships, and we work directly on the Gilman Scholarship. What I would say is that Matt Ryan is an invaluable partner in the process, and our goal through the Office of Competitive Fellowships, myself and Eric Elk, who will be introduced here in a couple seconds, is really we look at the applications and we really kind of fine tune them to make it like the best for each and every candidate. Then Eric, sorry.
My name is Eric Elg. I'm a graduate fellowship advisor with the Office of Competitive Fellowships. I work closely with Dr. T, and as he said, make suggestions to students reading over what they've written for their application to make it the most competitive application as possible. And really, to sum it up, my job is just helping you communicate about yourself to the best of your ability so that the Gilman readers know who you are and where you're going.
All right, thanks, Eric. Moving on. So the Gilman Scholarship is directly related to study abroad experience. So first of all, we kind of sent this broadcast out to many students at the university. So there are many angles and many people that know or do not know about study abroad. So I'm going to start at the beginning here and just clarify what is study abroad. It can be academic study. It can be internships abroad. It can be service learning abroad. It can be research or fieldwork abroad, and then it can also be student teaching. It comes in a variety of programs. Some programs are short term, 2 or 3 weeks, where you go with a professor here from the institution where you go. Many are more independent style programs where you kind of immerse yourself in a culture with the support of a program provider or a host university. So there's many types, and You should have my email, and if you don't, I will put it in the chat here. Um, for those of you that want to know more about study abroad, we do have a course on Canvas that I can invite you to. It's called Education Abroad 101. And that is basically a menu-based interactive program that we have that will kind of get you the basic facts of what you need to know in your situation. Basically program types, program funding, how the programs work, and what you need to do to participate in those programs. So my email, in case you don't have it, I'm going to put it in the chat box right now. I'm sure it's in a few different places, including the FGCU Study Abroad website. And I will invite you to this Canvas page, and you can click on Education Abroad 101. And from there, you can schedule an appointment with me to get more specific about what you really want to do. But to do the Gilman, we're going to talk a lot here about the application and what the Gilman's all about, but it is attached to a study abroad program where you're going to be getting academic credits abroad. So the first thing you have to do is start to consider what program and where that program is that you're interested in. So why study abroad? There is infinite reasons of why study abroad is a good idea. I think everyone has their own reasons, but first and foremost, especially if you need to present the idea to your parents or academic advisors or persuade someone, there's all kinds of research out there that should show the gains that a study abroad experience will have in employability, marketability, and skills. And I would say, even as few as 5 or 10 years, an international experience during your undergraduate career would be a nice thing to have on a resume. I think arguably nowadays, depending on what field it is and what the institution is where you'd like to work or be employed, in many cases it's really essential to compete in the market now, to have some sort of international experience, usually in the form of study abroad. Intercultural understanding and cultural literacy is really a skill. And it's a skill to be learned. You can travel around the world 100 times and be no more, culturally literate than when you first left. And going abroad, you have people on site wherever it is, whatever the program is, to offer you support. You have our office, other offices around FGCU that can guide you along the not just to go abroad, but to get the most of it out abroad. And really, that really includes learning the ability to navigate around culturally different others and be effective and responsible and respectful in how you do it. And study abroad is just a great opportunity to really learn those skills. Certainly language learning. I'm a big proponent of language learning. As someone that took 5 years of Spanish in high school and college, and then went to Costa Rica, and I got off the plane, I was going with a couple of friends, and within a couple of minutes, my friends were making fun of me. I was supposed to be the one that took all that Spanish in the classroom and was going to translate and communicate with everyone and get us around Costa Rica. They made fun of me for the entire 2 weeks that we were there because it was clear that I didn't speak Spanish at all. On the flip side, I spent a few months in Brazil. By the 5th month, I felt that I was fluent in the language by being immersed there. And that was, in my opinion, the only way you can really gain fluency, unless you are really skilled with languages. And I do think when you do learn a language, it just presents all kinds of opportunities going forward. Just learning Portuguese, the fact that I was fluent in Portuguese and some people knew it, I was offered a job there. I ended up living in Brazil for 12 years. Just by being fluent in that language. And it was the dream job that I had. And I recently moved from Brazil, not too recently, about 5 years ago, to come to FGCU. So that's a little bit of my story with language, but obviously an experience like this is going to increase those skills. It's kind of counterintuitive, but those students that study abroad tend to have better retention rates and graduate within 4 years more than students that do not study abroad. That is clear across all the research, not necessarily a correlation, or a correlation it is, maybe not a causation, but something to think about. And then my favorite is really that it just adds depth to life experience and self-confidence in navigating the world. It's a way to really paint your life in a unique and interesting light, and just add really in-depth real experience that kind of make you a better person overall. And I know a lot of people shy away from saying this, but it also can be a lot of fun. You meet some great people, great students. You bond while everyone's going through these explorative experiences, and so obviously I'm going to be biased, but I'm a proponent of study abroad. Many reasons that do it, and those are a few. At FGCU, I think we have about, let's do before the pandemic, we had about 230 students going abroad. I would say about half of those went on faculty-led programs, about 120, where you go with a group of FGCU students with a faculty or two faculty from the school. They tend to be short-term, 2 or 3 week programs. And then the other half, about 120, 130, did independent programs where they chose a program, they chose their country, and we helped them through the process. And they really have independent experiences when you are kind of living a day-to-day, getting yourself to class, doing what you got to do, being responsible, but really you are living in this place, doing what you want to do on weekends and at nights and things like that, but really having a more immersive experience rather than I'll say like a tourist type experience. And these independent programs are the ones that Gilman tends to favor. So as you're considering programs, first of all, we don't have any faculty-led programs planned for this summer because of the pandemic. But when you're thinking about this, you're going to be thinking about the program provider programs and the more independent programs where you're going with other US students to these locations, not necessarily FGCU students. Here's just a couple of photos of some students that we've had in the past that I've pulled. We've one in Paris there, the other one in New Zealand on the right-hand side, a group that I believe was in Germany. And then one of our featured program is a program called Harlexton College in England. So I'm going to open this up in the chat. And I think it's just something that it's a good place to start. Sometimes when students come in and they're not really sure what they want to do, what type of program they want to do, I think it's okay just to kind of dream. And it's pretty cliche, but I always say, where have you always wanted to go? Kind of follow your heart. And if you kind of examined where a place you've always kind of dreamed about immersing, you kind of come up with reasons of why you feel that way about the place. And the place where you go is important because it's an investment in your time, it's investment of funding. And if you kind of follow your heart and go where you want to go, there's a reason for it and you're going to get more out of it. Now, I think FGCU kind of follows the general trends of the rest of the United States in terms of study abroad, and that a high percentage of our students go to Europe. But I like to encourage that the students kind of consider around the world, wherever they kind of feel a connection. And also, if you do choose a place that's maybe less common as a study abroad destination, it in generally will make your application perhaps stand out out of the thousands of Gilman applicants that are out there competing with you for this grant. So I'm just going to throw it out there. Please put it in the chat. If you were on your way to an international airport like Miami International, and you had to pick one place to go, and you don't have to tell why, just name a place where you want to go. And if you could please just put that in a chat, I would appreciate it. And it's just time to think about it. We've got Greece, we got Japan, Africa, New Zealand, France, a couple New Zealands. I'm with you on that. I've never been there, but always wanted to. Japan. Colombia, New Guinea. There's an interesting one. Okay. Now, all those countries listed, besides New Guinea, that's an interesting one that we'll have to kind of follow up on, and I'd be interested in helping you look into that, Isaiah. All those countries that named, there's programs that either students have gone or will go, and we can find. And often, when you choose a program, you're looking at what the program setup is, what the costs are, what courses are going to be offered so that you're getting the right academic credit as it transfers back to US to help you with your degree and the timing. And that's kind of what our office is there to help you with, kind of helping you land that right program that's going to work and be the most beneficial for you personally, academically, and professionally. So yeah, I like that part because it offers you a chance to dream, and it's a good starting point in terms of where you want to go. Let's see. So if you read, let me just get this mission here. If you read Gilman's mission, this is also a good place to start. And I would say this is a good suggestion. I think Dr. T will agree with me. Whenever you are applying for any scholarships, and he'll tell you, and I'll tell you as well, any scholarship that you are eligible to apply for, you always apply, even if it's a long shot, because it is a learning process. Just the process of applying for these is a learning process. That's always worth it. Now, a good place to start in any application is looking at what the mission is. Why are they giving this money away, and why was it started? So, I suggest everyone check out the Gilman website, and I'll have that on a later slide. But the mission is to broaden the U.S. student population that participates in study abroad by supporting students who would not otherwise study outside the United States due to financial constraints, which is one of the reasons why the Pell Grant is one of the primary items of eligibility to apply. So you want to have that swimming around in your head, that mission statement, and that's going to be a good place to start as you write. You always want to be thinking of why they're going to give me money, what's their mission, and kind of apply that to the application process, which we'll learn about here in a couple seconds. So they're looking for students with a high financial need. They are looking to broaden the ethnicity that represents the United States in study abroad programs. They want to see more first-generation students, students with disabilities, students from community colleges or minority-serving institutions that don't tend or trend to send many study abroad students, and also underrepresented fields of study like STEM. So those are the ones that they tend to give priority to. But if you're not those, don't let anything discourage you as well. And what is the scholarship? This is important. Why are we doing all this? Well, first of all, the Gilman Scholarship, it is a competitive federal scholarship. You will be competing against students from universities all over the country. And maybe Dr. T can help me on the numbers here, but there's approximately 12,000 to 14,000 applicants for the Gilman annually. And of those, anywhere between, they give between, let's see, yeah, about 3,000 scholarships are available. I think this PowerPoint's from last year, the year before. I think it's a little bit higher, so probably a little above 3,000. So working the numbers, we're looking at 20 to 30% win rate. And that's competitive. So just winning the award is something that you are going to be able to put on your resume, kind of puts you a part of the Gilman Scholars Club, and really is going to open up opportunities just winning the award itself. And then you get the extra benefit of also having the federal government give you $5,000 towards your program. Most awards tend to be $5,000, but they say up to $5,000 because often it could be $4,000 or $4,500. Just varies depending on how much funds are available for them and how they want to divvy it up. If you decide to go to a country that is determined to have a native language that is determined to be of critical need to the United States, and those are listed here. Again, this is a little bit outdated. There could be some that are added to this list. Then you could also increase the fund to $8,000 for the award. In terms of the Gilman and FGCU and these numbers, I began here in 2016. I would say between 2016 and 2019, we had about 4 winners, 4, maybe 5 Gilman winners, with about 12 applications. We're very thankful that we opened up the Office of Competitive Fellowships and brought Dr. Cherumi and eventually Eric on board, because we've really increased the applicant pool, but not only have we increased the applicant pool, but we've increased the percentage of winners that we have. So just to tell you how we've been doing since the fall of 2019, we've had 12 winners on, I believe, 24 or 25 applications. So we are beating the national rate significantly, and we want to keep the momentum going. We want to keep it strong, and that's why we really we want to get the word out to Pell Grant recipients that not only can they study abroad, we can work with them to study abroad, and we can work with them with these applications to get them to study abroad and hopefully bring home the Gilman Prize. I think I'm going to stop real quick. Are we recording this, Terumi? I just want to make sure. Yeah, okay, good. And just see if anyone has any questions up to this point before we get into some eligibility and what the application components are. And feel free to unmute your microphone if you'd like, or put something in the chat. How safe are the less popular countries in critical need areas? It's always a good question. You know, you always want to pay attention to safety. And out of our office, we kind of tend to use guidelines. And I know everyone, you know, if they didn't know about it last year, everyone knows what the CDC is now, and the WHO as well, in terms of you know, issues of safety in terms of diseases, but also we also rely on the State Department, the U.S. State Department, who really gives an honest assessment of what they feel from on the ground, from the consulates and embassies around, of really what to be careful for. But I will say that, you know, out of my office, my philosophy is always looking at actual risks instead of perceived risks. And I learned that from working in a country like Brazil and a city like Rio de Janeiro that tends to have a perception of being places that are very dangerous, and they can be. But also, if you did not go to Rio de Janeiro or Brazil because you heard it was dangerous, I always said you'd be making a big mistake, because although there's cautions that you have to take and there's ways to do it, it's very navigable for a visitor or a student. And so if there's, you know, a study abroad program in these places, you're going to have a lot of preparation on what to watch out for, how to stay as safe as possible, and actually know about what the real risks are in a place, if that makes sense. But definitely something that we cover going through it. On the previous slide, that states the critical needs language, where those language you need to know. Let's see, on the previous slide where it states the critical need language, were those languages you need to know, or those are languages that you would like to learn, actually. So if you're interested in one of those countries and you're prepared to dedicate yourself to actually gaining some fluency, then that will allow you to apply for the critical need language scholarship. Terumi, that is correct. You don't need any fluency or levels of the language before you go.
Not for the Gilman. What they really want to do is they want to help people with language acquisition. And so there's a small extra essay that's involved in this for those who want to go into for those who want to go after the critical needs languages, but it's really pretty easy to do. We've had people also be recipients of that before. Yeah.
And Julie asked how you decide about picking a critical need language. This is, as I was kind of mentioning on the map, that said, where do you want to go? This is really a personal decision and where you want to immerse yourself and learn from and explore and learn a language. You know, if you do want to go for this scholarship and you are interested in one of those places and really want to immerse yourself, then it's up to you to choose. Yeah, so it's easy to feel overwhelmed and lost based on Celeste's question. She's been looking at programs that would work for her on her own. There are thousands, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of different study abroad programs out there, providers across the board. And basically, I feel like our job is, although it can still be a little bit overwhelming to make the selection, our job is to kind of sort through all that, recommend programs that we know about, look at the barriers that could exist. You know, some programs are really expensive, some are more affordable, and just try to find the right fit and try to narrow it down so that you're only kind of looking at, you know, 2 to 4 programs to choose from rather than hundreds. But Celeste, that's kind of where our office kind of, or I hope our office in Education Abroad 101, like the Canvas program that I was talking about earlier, can be helpful. Is there a contact in the individual country or local university is available to support? Yes, you always have support on these programs. You're going to be going with either a host university if it's an exchange program and this support is the host university, or you're going to be going with a program provider that has staff on site that does everything from pick you up at the airport, give you, you know, health insurance, have a cell phone that's available for 24 hours. They handle your accommodation and things like that, and those are built into the costs of the program. You know, the Gilman is one scholarship. There's other scholarships, and I always tell people, if you think cost is going to be the barrier, don't let it be a barrier until you're absolutely sure that it is a barrier, because often students don't think they can go abroad. They end up having, you know, some of the most memorable and meaningful experiences of their lives as a result. Okay, so I am going to keep these. Let's see, it mentions a few weeks if you're getting so. Yes, it would be more for a semester. It's kind of prorated in that sense. But yeah, the study abroad questions I can answer. It varies, you know, depending on the semesters and the costs. But like I said, don't make costs a barrier until you're sure, because often students can be very surprised, especially if the Gilman award is going to be paying for some of it. So eligibility, you have to be a U.S. citizen, and if you are in the process of gaining your citizenship, you can still apply for the Gilman, but before the program begins, you need to show proof of citizenship. So this came up with one of our students today, who I think is in here, and I told her by all means she should be applying for the scholarship. She thinks that her citizenship is going to be confirmed at some point in April or May, and so she would be available for a summer or fall program should she wish. So yep, you have to be a U.S. citizen because it is a U.S. federal scholarship. You have to be an undergraduate student. You have to be going to a degree giving institution and in the middle of getting your undergraduate degree. You have to be a Pell Grant recipient. Often students are Pell eligible, but they're not recipients. And Pell eligible is actually not the criteria. You actually have to be a Pell Grant recipient to apply for the award. And if you're in the process as well, if you're not a current Pell recipient, but you think you will be by the time the program runs, basically the financial aid advisor at your home university, FUCU, will be certifying your application as you apply. So you really need to be a Pell Grant recipient at the time that you apply. The program has to be a program that receives academic credit. So as I was mentioning earlier, there's lots of different types of study abroad programs. There's service learning programs, there's internship programs. Sometimes those programs are not for credit. Usually there's an option that you can take academic credit for those types of programs, internship or service learning program. But whatever program that you do, you have to elect for receiving academic credit, because that is part of the eligibility for the Gilman. And you know, the academic credit transfers back in a variety of ways, but you get your courses and your credit approved by your advisor before you go as part of the process. So you know when you come back that credit's going to be transferring in and counting towards your undergraduate degree. You have to be going to a country that's not under a travel warning. This kind of gets into what the question was about safety. We follow U.S. State Department guidelines. They no longer have travel warnings per se. This is again a couple of years outdated, but they have they split not only countries but regions of the world into 4 levels. And so, you know, a country like maybe a country that's in wartime, or a country that's, you know, is going through some political unrest, like a Syria or something, might be level 4. A country like, say, Canada or maybe Japan might be level 1 or 2 in general. And so this now if you're applying to a level 4, you will not be allowed to apply for the Gilman grant. It's really only, it's for levels 3 and below. And if you are a level 3 country, in generally it has to be approved during the process. At this moment, because of the pandemic that's out there, as we speak right now, there's a lot of countries that went from 1 and 2s up to level 3s. And at the same time, the Gilman has come in and said, we're not going to allow students to travel to level 3s and level 4 countries. So this will all kind of get determined in the process. Things will change. A lot of countries have gone from 3 to 2 in recent weeks. One of those was South Korea, that was a 3 in November, went down to a level 2 in December. And we have a student who is a Gilman Award winner who is departing for South Korea next week as part of her program. So that is that eligibility rule. And also the program, they're trying to avoid these quick tour-like, faculty-led programs. They really are encouraging immersive cultural experiences. And so one of the eligibility criteria is that the program that you apply for has to be a minimum of 3 weeks, unless you're at a community college, which you guys are not. So it has to be a little bit of an immersive program. It still can be a faculty-led program, but that program has to be at least 3 weeks long. So the application requirements, there's the student application, and it really is not that complicated, but it is something you want to begin right away and really start thinking of and do your best job and put your best work forward. The student application will include your home institution and the program that you want to do and the details. So another thing you want to do is kind of really firm up on the program that you want to do and what you're thinking about. And then I would say the main part of the essay or the main part of the application that you really want to put the most time into are the 2 essays that are involved. And we'll talk a little bit more about those, but the first essay is the statement of purpose essay. And well, the second essay is the hypothetical follow-up project. So you can do something that will provide outreach and kind of spread the word and encourage other people that were once in your position to go international. When we go over that second essay, we have an update that I was actually unaware of that Dr. T told me about earlier, and that is they changed the purpose of that essay and made it 2 separate essays. So there's actually 3 essays, and we'll get to that in just a second. On the advisor side of things is throughout the application process, which is all online, the whole application is online. You upload your essays, you do an online application. When you put that Florida Gulf Coast is your home university, that will signal the advisor side of things, and I will get a message. And as a study abroad representative here, I have to certify your application, which I'll read over. I have to certify that the program you're doing fits all the eligibility criteria, and then I approve it. And then the financial aid officer representative, who is currently, her name is Barb Font, in the financial aid office, she certifies you on the financial side. So she will just go in there and approve that you are in fact a Pell recipient and that you're okay to apply for the award. So the statement of purpose, Gilman basically says to consider it like the personal interview. There's no one-on-one contact. There's no interview that they're going to meet you in person. So this is really your chance to kind of separate yourself from the pack, really get your story across. You want to talk about yourself. You want to talk about, I always kind of recommend story form. So, introducing yourself. What kind of challenges did you have? And what is kind of your story? Where are you at now? And how would this award benefit you in the future? That's kind of the denouement part of the story. And the more you can get that, you're going to gather more interest from the readers. When you do write this essay, think about the Gilman people that volunteered to read over the applications. They're probably cooped up in some hotel in some Midwestern city somewhere, and they are reading hundreds of essays at the same time. So you want to really kind of put your time into it and kind of separate yourself, tell your story. You can mention the financial need and the financial challenges that you have, but I would refrain from emphasizing that too much because the fact that you're a Pell recipient already tells them that there's some financial need there. And let's see. It's also, the challenging thing is it's 7,000 words, which is about a page and a half. And so that's a constraint. It'd be easier to write, 5 or 6 pages about you and your story. But you have to find the best content for those 7,000 words, and you cannot have any wasted words. So you got to really think about the constraints and how to build your essay. And we are happy to work with you on drafts. Myself, Dr. T, Eric. It's kind of what we do is kind of help you through the draft process. We also have other resources on campus that can help you, including the Writing Center and other faculty that are willing to look at these for us. This is the statement of purpose, essay 1. I would like to invite Dr. T into the conversation, and Eric as well, just because I know that he's a really good coach for this particular part of the essay for the Gilman and on all the other awards that he works with.
Greetings. Again, Dr. T here. So I just want to say a few things. The Office of Competitive Fellowships, we help students, what I like to say is from conception to completion. So you can start working with us. We will help you from just like the nascent idea of kind of outlining this entire essay to submitting it in the office if you really wanted to. And if I could follow up on a couple of points, one of the things that I want to tell you is that GPA doesn't matter. Unlike a lot of other awards, they're very serious about that. They want to send as many people abroad as possible. We've had people with GPAs lower than 2.5 receive this award. So understand, we mean it. We're there for you. This is actually one of my favorite awards because I really believe that everybody has the right / ability / responsibility to travel abroad. And that's why, if you work with our offices, we'll be there to support you every step of the way. In terms of the Gilman, there's a bunch of different strategies, but basically one of the points that I'd like to emphasize, and I'm going to actually have Eric speak about this, is I want you to prove why you need this award versus why you want this award. And with that, I'll let Eric take it away on the first essay. Eric?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. T. So for statement of purpose, it's just as the name of the essay implies, why are you traveling abroad? And in explaining that, like Dr. T just said, you need to demonstrate a need, not just an idle desire. As Matt referenced earlier in the information session, when Gilman awards this award, it's not just because they have an endless, unlimited pot of money somewhere. No, they want to see a return on the investment that they're making in you. And the goal in the statement of purpose is really twofold. The first one is going to be delineating what your goals, what your direction in your academics and profession are. And secondly, the importance of traveling abroad to specifically the country that your program is going to be in as it relates to those goals. So the first part of that is I always like to use the analogy of like an origin story. The Gilman readers obviously have never met you, presumably, and need to get to know you through the statement of purpose, namely what your goals are. And so just as Batman had, the alleyway scene where his parents were killed and that motivated him to fight a life of crime, what's your alleyway scene that has motivated you ardently to pursue the discipline or profession that you're pursuing? And then second part of that is integrating your origin story with traveling abroad to the country that you're applying for. How is that going to take your origin story to fruition? And that requires you to look at past, present, and future, where you've been, where you are, and where you're going. The other component of the statement of purpose, and it is very difficult to fit this all in under the word limit, which is why the sooner you can get started, the better, to give yourself ample time, to start editing and revising. The third component that I just mentioned is, I had it and then I lost it. About you, your goals integrated in travel abroad, and looking at your past to show that if they make this investment in you, with your goals established and how the country is going to help you, that once there, you're going to have the resilience and the academic skills necessary to make sure that return on investment is eventually realized. They would rather not, and it happens sometimes, send a student abroad and it's just too much, overwhelming. You're not able to keep pace for whatever reason. They want to ensure that you have the resilience to persevere through the difficulties you might anticipate facing. And that requires you to cite evidence in your past. What academic challenges have you overcome? What skills, experiences can you call on to prove that you have what it takes to travel abroad and make the most of the opportunity? And so those are really the three things that go into the statement of purpose: who you are, your origin story, where you came from, and what your goals are; why travel abroad is so important to that, to advance it to the next phase; and then looking to your past, what have you done thus far? What skills, experiences can you call on to make sure that you can operationalize travel abroad to feed into your future goals? So I think did I miss anything, Dr. T?
I meant to say 7,000 characters,
Yeah.
not seven. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No. Yeah, it's 7,000 characters, which if it were 7,000 words, it would probably be
Dissertation.
dissertation and a lot easier to fit everything in. But 7,000 characters, you consume them very quickly.
Thank you
to
for
fit,
that.
yeah. So, but anyways, yeah, Dr. T, did I miss anything?
No, I think you're good to go. If I were to kind of apply this and talk about this from this aspect, it's kind of like, all right, FGCU students, things that we know, 4 out of every 5 people work, right? And you work an insane number of hours, 30 hours, right? This is, and I want you to consider this. It's not like you're saying, take pity on me. What you're saying is, I'm putting myself through school, right? That's somebody I want to support. If you are the person that's the first person in your family and you've never had this opportunity to travel abroad, it's good to let them know you're first gen. It's good to let them know that, without this, I wouldn't have this opportunity and I will make the most of it too. That idea of resilience, if you can kind of show that story in your essay, trust me, that's something that they're going to want to see. I know because I was a reviewer. So that's why I'm telling you, like, really kind of think about what makes your identity so unique and why would a person want to support you, and put that in there. It's something that I always emphasize, the uniqueness, whatever they're going to remember you by, whether it be that person that, grew up watching anime all the time and, just really wanted to go to Japan to experience life, to understand the culture and things like that, they'll be like, oh, what did you think about the anime kid? And that's okay, because that meant you were memorable and that you were linking yourself, your past, to where you want to go in the future, And maybe it's because of the fact that you had this experience, you wanted to understand Japanese culture, and, maybe you're that business student and anime was kind of like that first entryway, but it's leading to something greater. See, that's how you get the past, present, and future in there. All right. So that's like an example of the first essay. All right. The second essay has changed a little bit, and this is kind of where I wanted to talk about this one. It's called the Community Impact Essays now. And what it is it's no longer one huge essay. They've actually broken out to 2 smaller essays. So it's really the same amount of characters, but it's just a little bit different. So each one is 3,000 characters maximum. All right. So this is kind of like the difference now. One of the things that they're emphasizing this year in particular is, as a U.S. citizen, how will you represent and share what it means to be an American during your program? How will you seek out opportunities to be more culturally engaged and have meaningful interactions with people and cultures different from your own during your abroad program? All right. This is the biggest change. What they've realized was everybody was answering the follow-up service project, and we'll get to that because there's a very easy way of doing this. But this particular essay is actually really important. And this is where working with our offices, we're going to show you like the techniques to answer this question. Most important thing is kind of finding the hustle, right? So number one, which program are you going to, and kind of seeing what they're doing. And then number two, integrating yourself into it. All right. And what I mean by that is this. Let's take a program in the UK, for example, just for that. You know, if your program is having cultural immersion trips, going to different sites and different museums, that's one way that you can immerse yourself in the community, and you can speak directly to this. You know, through this program, I know that we are going to travel to X, Y, and Z. The specificity of what you're doing, and then talking about how you would then engage with the people as well as the culture there, is very important, right? That's one way. It's going specifically with that. The second way is during your quote unquote off time, right? So what do you want to do that's going to put yourself out there and kind of like meet with the people, you know? And this is where you can kind of take a look at each individual city or each individual's place and be like, kind of create your own little wish list. Like, you know, having this opportunity, I would definitely want to travel to X, right? Or, you know, and even something like bungee jumping, you know, getting in touch, meeting people, you know, seeing what culture and life are like. Where's the cuisine? You know, that's always something that everybody loves. So is there a place within this region which is exceptional for this, that, and the other thing? What it is, it's doing a little bit of homework for and kind of learning about the place even beforehand, because what you're doing is you're showing your passion, right? That's one part. The second part is how will you share what it means to be an American during your program? This is a little bit of an extension of that first essay, right? Because now what you're doing is you're saying, actually, this is what being an American means to me, you know? And it's like we have all these different ideas. So sharing that culture with them, you know, being open, being engaged, being that person that's going to listen and also kind of give opinions, which could be different than the government itself. You know, that's the whole entire purpose of this. This is a cultural ambassadorship. Show how you've been an ambassador in the past. Show how you've been like a member, a good citizen in the past. You know, as I always say, show, don't tell. Give examples and past history of how you've done this and how you'll take these skills and bring them into this country, whichever one you go to. Right? All right. That's the first essay. The second essay is called the Follow-Up Service Project, which is everything on how we give back to your inspiring others to study abroad, on campus or in the community, and design plans of action, audience, tools, and timeline. Matt's 100% correct. But here's the thing. As a reader, I can tell you this is actually a 3-part answer. All right. Number one, whatever you do, what you're going to say is, I'm going to be a Gilman ambassador for international services and the Office of Competitive Fellowships whenever we have hosts things like this. And I'll be there to attend and kind of like explain my study abroad experience, right? That's one audience already. Number two, whatever club or activity is most important to you, put that in there and say that you're going to host another session for that specific group, right? Whether that be the cooking club, whether that be the rugby team, anything like that on campus. Whatever is important to you, put that group in there. And it can be anything. And I really mean that. Like, I want to see some diversity in there. I want to know what you're involved in, what you're passionate about. And by the way, this also includes like, if you're not involved in club activities / working all the time, you can even put in your workplace. Like you know, when I come back, I'm going to speak with, you know, the staff at like Connors, for example, right? I want to see that. The final part, and this is where people stumble, is we're all from different places, right? And so what I always say is, where are you from in terms of the US, geographically speaking? Okay, what groups are important to you there, right? So let's say that you're from Jacksonville, right? And you're continuously a member of a church or something like that. Perfect. That's beautiful. You know why? Because it extends the reach of how many people you're going to speak with. So one of the things that we looked for in the Gilman essays are those who really wanted to speak to diverse audiences. That's what you're doing. So instead of thinking about it as, I want to speak with one group on campus, think about it as, I want to speak to, you know, I'll be a representative on behalf of these 2 offices. I'll speak with my club and activity. And when I go home, you know, during winter break or during a summer break or something like that, I'm also going to reach out to the community there. Whatever's most important to you, this is going to be helpful, because they're going to look at these. And when what I can tell you is that when it comes down to the last few applications, this is what we wanted to see. It was like, wow, this person has a dynamic plan. They're going to reach out to as many people as possible. And if you're fighting for those last slots, like, there's not going to be any question as to who we're going to choose, one or a candidate over the other. So that's why I always say 3 target audiences. And, it's really not that much. Like, it's an hour's worth of time for each audience, or it could be. It could be more than that, depending on what you want to do. But the 3-part plan will, spread the word about both Travel Abroad and Gilman itself. So that's the big change in terms of the community impacts essay. And like I said, we will help you from conception to completion, and we'll be there for you. All right. And the other thing I want to say is Eric is actually taking the lead on Gilman on the OCF side of the house, and he'll put in his email, and you can contact him directly with this one. Doesn't mean I'm not working on it. It just means that this has actually been part of his portfolio, and he had a very good fall. So it was actually better than me. So I'm a little bit jelly.
All right.
All right.
So yeah, thanks, Eric and Truby. So keep those things in mind. Eric just put the Gilman essay guidelines, the updated version, in the chat room. Also, something I just thought of right now is that Financial Aid Office helped us get the message out for this session, and I don't have a database of emails or ways to contact you. So please put your emails in the chat box so I can reach out after this session and we can get started thinking about the wheres and the programs that you might consider to do. All right. So moving on from there, I see those questions. Julie, I'm going to save those questions till the end because we're kind of running a little short on time, and I want to make sure that we all got the timelines and deadlines squared away for everybody here. Let's see. Okay, so if you are planning on going abroad for a spring semester or a summer program, the timeline, basically the application opens in August, and don't worry if you're thinking about going this summer. The summer is open on both timelines. The applicant deadline is the first Tuesday in October every year, and then we have, as advisors, we certify a week after that. So if you're thinking about a spring program, your deadline is going to be October. If you're thinking about a fall semester program or a summer program, then we are in the middle of the process right now. It recently opened, I think it was last week, the application opened in mid-January, and the applicant deadline is the first Tuesday in March. That's kind of 2 months away, but really, if you think about it, we're almost done with January, and then it's right at the beginning of March. So you got to think in your head, it's 1 month away, and we want to get started right away. So put your email. I'm going to follow up with each one of you so we can talk about the possible program options, in case you haven't thought about that too much in depth. But yeah, so if you're summer or fall and you want to get if you're summer and you want to get your application in there, do it pretty soon, as well as the fall. And if you're thinking about spring, you can wait till October. And then also in spring, if you're thinking about going the following summer in 2022, then you can do the early application. The benefit of the early application is you're going to know in December if you won or not, so you can just budget accordingly. If you can already know that you're going to have that $5,000 towards your program way in advance. If you apply in March, we are going to know if you won at some point in April. So there's kind of a little bit of a gray area in that you kind of have to kind of hope that you're going to get it. Sometimes I say kind of budget, try to make the budget if you can't get it. And if you don't get it, you can always cancel the program if you have to. I always tell students not to count on it and just kind of hope that you get it, because by April, you're already going to want to have some plans for summer. So the timing's a little bit tricky on that one, but in any case, you still want to apply and you still have time to back out of the application if you don't get the scholarship. So we talked about what makes a strong application, especially in the essays. Plan ahead, use the resources, use our office, use the Office of Competitive Fellowships, use the Creative Writing Center, use faculty that you know that can help you, kind of firm up your essays. Research your program and kind of draw as many connections as Terumi was saying to the program and why and Eric as well, why you're doing that specific program, because they're going to want to know reasons that you did choose that. This might sound bad. I'm not sure if Dr. T is going to agree with me, but in some cases, by no means am I telling you to lie, but if you could kind of embellish a story with that original story, if you don't have any connection to South Africa at all, reach deep. And I think it's okay to find any strain. It can be, listening to a South African song one time and that sparked your interest, but you got to try to form some kind of line as to why you chose that particular program. And I can help you with those programs, the different styles of program and where they are. Invest your time in your essays. We already talked about this. Start early, have them proofread, of course, before you go. A lot of times students wait till the last minute and throw anything out there, and they're missing huge opportunities of getting, of using the resources that we have to firm up and make a better application. And check your application for accuracy, of course. Know where to get the information you need to answer questions that you have. Anything your travel, study abroad related. Also, I'm always happy to read the essays. Use our office for a resource for that. Always use Cherumi and Eric's Office of Competitive Scholarships. Like I said, use your resources, get the information, and put forth your best application. Here is the Gilman website. You want to just be very familiar with that, be familiar with the essay components, the application components rather, and especially the mission. What are they doing? Why does it exist? And you can also find, Googling, and sometimes you can often find essays that were winners. So you can kind of see what a winning essay looks like. When somebody wins the Gilman from our office, I always, I ask them if it's okay if we share their essays, so you can have a look at what a winning essay looks like. Most students are fine with this, so let me know if that comes up. And so that's the Gilman. But while you're doing the Gilman, there's also a scholarship called the Perez Family Study Abroad Scholarship, and that's out of our office together with the foundation. And we've mimicked the personal statement essay with the Gilman to make that a component of the Perez. So the Perez is a simple application, and it's basically your Gilman personal essay, but it's going to be turned in and directed towards our office instead of the Gilman folks. We did that on purpose so that if you apply for the Gilman, you can have an easy application for the Perez. And for an independent style program of 3 weeks or more, you can get up to $3,000 from the foundation. Those funds are dispersed based on what the committee wants to come up with. Sometimes they might see one that really excels over the others and give the maximum amount, $3,000. On other years, they might take all the essays, they're all quite good, and they'll split it evenly, split the pie evenly. So it really depends on how many applicants we get and what the committee wants to do with those funds. We do have extra funds this year because we had several winners from last year that were not able to go because of the pandemic, and then have since graduated or are going to graduate before they can have the opportunity to use those funds. So you can find the Perez family information on our website, but I'm going to email everyone that was here and include the application as an attachment in the email. So that's more funds for you, up to $3,000 for this type of program. That deadline is March 15th. We also kind of aligned with the Gilman. So you'll have time to do it. If you do the Gilman, you're automatically going to be doing the Perez as well. So there's some good funding there that can really help you have these amazing, life-changing learning experiential experiences that really, I'm an old guy now, and I can't tell you how, as years go on, these kind of experiences that I did have, I'm very grateful for. And you're at a time in your lives where exploration is important. You're kind of fine-tuned for exploration and getting out there and experiencing and connecting dots that are going to navigate your future. And we hope you take advantage of this opportunity. Again, I hope you put your emails here. Thanks for that. If you have the chat or if you want to turn off your microphone, I can answer any questions you have. But yeah, I hope you come see us soon. Cherumi or Eric, do you want to say any final comments? Or
I think we had one question from Julia Matt. Her question was, do the applicants need to be receiving the Pell Grant during the study abroad trip that the Gilman would be going towards?
No, they have to be a recipient at the time of the application process.
Okay.
Because as part of the application, financial aid will certify it. And what they certify is that you are in fact a Pell Grant recipient.
Okay, thank you.
My last words were, study abroad is definitely a big part of just anybody's portfolio, and like just having that cultural experience it is life changing. I mean that, and we are here for you. Like, understand, we want to help you every step of the way. So please feel free to reach out to us, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Other than that, I wish you the best of luck. Thanks for all coming out on a Wednesday. Really appreciate it.
All right. If you have friends, we recorded this so we can forward it on to friends who may have missed it. All right. Thanks, Eric. Dr. T.
My pleasure.
All right, I'm gonna stop recording here.